Economists are expecting the unemployment rate to remain flat at 3.5% in April, and that's the lowest level in almost 50 years. Joining me now is our business reporter, Edward Boyd. Ed, we had the jobs numbers jobs numbers released later this morning after the wage price index yesterday showed that wages growth is at its highest level in a decade.
Wages growth at its highest level since the end of September 2012 quarter. So that's more than a decade. So wages are growing. They're still not growing anywhere near the level of inflation in our economy. So the recent quarter, wages grew at 3.7% annually. Inflation was at 7%. So wages are virtually half the rate of inflation. But look, later today, we're going to get the ABS figures for unemployment for the month of April, and we're expecting 25,000 jobs to be created during the month of April. That's the consensus from economists. Remember, Australia's population is growing, so to keep the unemployment rate flat at 3.5%, which is near 50-year lows, our August 1974 low level, they're going to need to create 25,000 jobs to do that. So these figures are pretty important, and we've been watching them closely over the last couple of years. We've seen a real increase in the number of full-time workers compared to part-time workers in Australia, and expect to see that shift continue this morning, Laura.
Yeah, well, we look forward to that. Ed, the final piece of data the Reserve Bank will look at ahead of the June board meeting is these April inflation figures, which are released at the end of this month. What are they expected to be like?
Look, the most recent monthly inflation indicator for March showed inflation was 6.3% at an annual rate. We're hoping to see a slight fall in inflation for the month of April. So we'll get those numbers on the 31st of May. Basically, the RBA wants to see inflation coming down a lot quicker than it is. It's staying too high for too long. So at the moment, the consensus from economists is there's a roughly 50% chance of an interest rate rise by August this year. So economists have a 50-50 chance here of the RBA lifting rates again. Remember, rates are at 3.85%, which is the highest level in more than a decade. But the other thing, Laura, is the Reserve Bank does believe the unemployment rate in Australia is going to slowly start creeping ahead. So they're expecting it to get up to 4% by the end of this year. And the RBA wants unemployment to rise because they want to reduce domestic demand in our economy to help bring down inflation. So one of the ways of doing that, the bad news is less people will be in work, the less people will be spending money in the economy. And in theory, according to the RBA, that will reduce inflation as well. So that's the other thing that we'll get out of today's jobs figures too.